Today I'm going to talk to you about two things. One, where to buy vintage lenses, and two, how to adapt vintage lenses. Now, these days, more and more people are shooting with mirrorless cameras. That means it's a great thing because they're actually discovering that you can adapt old vintage lenses quite easily to a mirrorless body. You could do it to DSLR cameras, but the problem was that some lenses had like a protrusion in the back and it would hit the mirror sometimes, and it could break the DSLR. Not all of them, but you always have to be careful. Now, someone always asks me, what about this camera and this lens? To be honest, I don't know. I'm just a guy. What you could do is just go to Google, type your camera model and the lens, and find out if there is any problem with compatibility. But anyways, mirrorless cameras and adapting vintage lenses. It's great. I've heard people tell me that they're getting old, their eyesight isn't as good as they used to be, but you can actually just use the live view in the back, and many of these mirrorless cameras have focus peaking, so it makes it really, really easy. Now, if you're watching this, consider yourself lucky because it's kind of a head start. Like, you should buy vintage lenses right now because more and more people are starting to do it and the prices are going up. So let me tell you where I like to buy vintage lenses. And it's really like a variety of places. First of all, the easiest place to look for is eBay. It's also like the riskiest, but what you can do is like make sure you're buying it from like a real good seller. Like if they have like a 99% satisfaction or 100% satisfaction and they've sold a lot of lenses, then I feel like you can actually trust them. I don't buy them from any dodgy people, it's like people who have like a bad rating. You should also read the description because sometimes these lenses say that they're just for parts. Don't make that mistake. I've never done it, but I could have easily sworn I almost did it one time. But anyways, read the descriptions very well. Make sure there's like no fungus or haze or some kind of mechanical issue with the aperture, unless you don't mind shooting open the whole time. And to be honest, if you're shooting with vintage lenses, pretty much most people just shoot them wide open all of the time. But you can actually stop them down. Like there's no reason to shoot a vintage lens wide open all the time. You can stop them down. Secondly, many cities actually have camera centers. Like they have like camera stores, and people actually aren't even aware that their city has a camera store. There's like if you don't have one in your city, there's probably one, like a major one in a major city nearby. You can always call and ask, hey, do you have this lens? Sometimes they have a website. Sometimes you can just go and check it out. So people just don't know, and they often take good care of lenses and they clean them up very well. So you got eBay, you got camera centers in big cities. You can also go to thrift stores and pawn shops. That's actually like one of my favorite things to do, especially whenever I visit back home, Texas. So you can go to a pawn shop, you can go to thrift stores, you can sometimes find really good deals in pawn shops, especially since half the time they don't know what they're selling. But the real money is in thrift stores, because sometimes you can find some really awesome like point and shoot cameras that are actually cost hundreds of dollars. You can find them for like $3 because people don't know any better. More often than not, you'll find like these old camera bodies that for more or less aren't really worth much these days, but they often have like these lenses that are worth much, much more than the bodies. So I would do that if I were you. If your city has a flea market, go check it out. If there's garage sales, you'd be surprised the things you can find in garage sales. Like I live in Korea, we don't have garage sales here anymore, but whenever I go back to the States, that's like the first place I go to, like the pawn shops, the flea markets, the garage sales, the vintage stores. For me, it's like open season because in my city, not many people are into photography. Finally, and this is one place that many people don't know about. It's kind of like my hidden secret, but there are some auction websites, and in some cases they let you buy them off right away. But there's one in particular called like shopgoodwill.com. And the only reason I'm telling you this website is because I pretty much already have every lens I've ever wanted. and I really have no reason to fight anyone over some lens that I want. But yeah, shopgoodwill.com is pretty cool. They have so much stuff like all the time. They have like a whole section dedicated to just cameras and lenses. And you often see like these really amazing lenses go for like $10 or $15. In some cases, better than eBay. It's not cheaper. I mean, they don't have as much variety as eBay, but you can often find really, really good deals. The only drawback is that sometimes you have to compete against other people. Like, I'm there waiting for like the last second for the auction to end, and you just keep going up the prices and make sure like that you beat someone to get the lens you want. But more often than not, they have also the buy now button, and that's actually a really good cheap alternative. So we talked about reasons why you should be shooting vintage lenses. I have a video of my recommended lenses, like under $50, but there's many, many more lenses. Those are just like some nice picks under 50. We talked about where you can buy some vintage lenses, including my secret place, shopgoodwill.com. It's an awesome website, I've showed it to a few people and they thanked me and they found some good deals on there. Just don't let it become a habit, because like gas is a real thing. The good thing with vintage lenses is that most of them are like pretty cheap. In fact, almost all the vintage lenses don't even add up to half the cost of the more expensive lenses that I do have, or like one of them. Now, how do you adapt vintage lenses? It's actually quite simple. You're going to need an adapter. Now, I'm going to do something that I don't usually do, and that's recommend a camera company to you. I'm not sponsored, I'm not affiliate. You're not gonna find any link for me to get a cutback on the description or anything like that. I'm just doing it because I've been using them for a long time. And even though they are a little bit pricier than others, I recommend them because I've never had any issues and I've never heard of anyone having any issues. These are the KNF Concept adapters. These are like full metal. They're what you call dumb adapters. They don't have any electronic contacts or anything, which is okay because you don't need them. You're going to be shooting with vintage lenses anyways. But you can also use these to adapt like other camera brands to your lenses. KNF Concept. There are other adapters, and to be honest, I use a lot of cheap adapters too. But I've heard problems people have had because when it comes to adapting lenses, everything needs to be like very precise. Like we're talking fractions of, if you have like fractions of a millimeter off, maybe your lens won't focus to infinity or something like that. Or there's been problems where people can't get the pin on some aperture lenses to work. So I recommend them because I've never had any issues. Also, on some cheaper brands, sometimes the threading is a little bit wrong. So like you want your lens to screw all the way so you can have like the information on top of the lens, and maybe you'll like screw halfway and then stop. I actually have a lens and adapter like that. Like it doesn't screw all the way, but it doesn't really bother me, but I know it bothers some people. So anyways, KNF adapters, you can find their website online. There's many brands and you can use as many of them, but like this is the one that works for me. Anyways, this is what you do. You have your adapter and you have your lens. We're gonna use this Industar 52 as an example. Anyways, people seem to think that this is very complicated. It's actually not. All you have to do is screw it or clip it. Like, just to point out, there's many kinds of lens mounts out there and many different kinds of camera mounts as well. So when you have a vintage lens, first thing you want to do is find out which camera mount you need. This is an M42 screw mount, and this is going to be adapted to my camera. This is one of my many cameras. People always try to guess which camera I'm shooting with. They always get it wrong, they just can't figure it out. So all you gotta do is take your mount, your lens, screw it, and voila. Literally, that's it. That's all you have to do. Now, some cameras won't actually let you take a picture unless you go into the settings and you like find some setting where you disconnect the lens from the camera so that the camera knows that you're shooting like manual lenses. So really, that's all you have to do. People are always going to ask me like, what kind of adapter do I need for my camera, blah, blah, blah. And that's where you have to do your own research. Like you have to find out which kind of adapter you have for your lens and which kind of camera you're using. If you're using mirrorless, you're probably not going to have any problems. If you're having like a DSLR or something, sometimes you might have a problem, but you have to look online and make sure that they are compatible. All right. So yeah, I mean, look at how small this is. Anyways, I hope you found this video informative, especially the Shop Goodwill website, which is like my treasure trove. And yeah, do yourself a favor and start buying some vintage lenses. They are great, they are cheap, they're awesome. You have lots of character. And trust me when I say that as more and more people are going to be shooting mirrorless cameras, the prices are going to start going up because people are finding out, they're starting to discover that it's way cheaper and it's way more fun to be shooting with these lenses. Anyways, see you around.